Gene Hackman vanished without a trace, slipping away quietly with no applause, no send-off from those who had once celebrated him. But why? Why did Hollywood, the same industry that had once elevated him to stardom, allow him to fade into obscurity? Robert Duvall knew the answer he always had, and when he finally spoke out, the truth shocked everyone. Gene Hackman didn't step away because of old age or a desire to escape the spotlight. He was pushed out. Hollywood had no room left for him. The same people who once hailed him as a legend silently turned their backs. When Robert Duvall finally revealed the truth, something no one else dared to speak, it wasn't just heartbreaking, it was a brutal revelation beyond words. What really happened to Gene Hackman? Who forced him out, and why? Until the end, he never looked back. If you're captivated by the story of Gene Hackman and his mysterious disappearance, make sure to hit like, share this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thrilling content. Now, let's jump into the story. Robert Duvall gazed into the camera, his expression calm, yet his aging eyes told a different story. Something unspoken, a quiet sorrow, or perhaps something deeper. For years, he had kept quiet about Gene Hackman, a man once hailed as a Hollywood titan. But today, Robert Duvall shattered that silence, and what he revealed stunned the entire film world. Robert Duvall and Gene Hackman were never the best of friends. They didn't share drinks or spend afternoons on the golf course like many Hollywood peers. Yet, an unspoken respect always existed between them. Both were quiet, humble figures from Hollywood's golden age, men who didn't rely on charm or flamboyance to make their mark. They started as unknowns in supporting roles, gradually emerging with an undeniable presence, commanding respect and instilling fear without uttering a single word. Gene Hackman and Robert Duvall may not have been close friends, but they shared an understanding that few in the industry could match. For years, Duvall remained silent about Hackman. No praise, no stories, not even a mention in interviews. Whenever asked, he would either smile or remain quiet. This silence stretched on for so long that it became its own mystery. Was there hidden tension between them? Or did Duvall simply not see the need to discuss his colleague in passing conversations? But when Gene Hackman passed away, Duvall broke his silence, and what he revealed stunned everyone. On March 7th, the film world was rocked by the tragic news. Gene Hackman had passed away at 95. He died in his home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he had spent his final years, far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Medical reports revealed that his death was due to severe heart complications caused by high blood pressure and advanced Alzheimer's disease. What made Gene Hackman's death even more haunting was that his wife, Betsy Arakawa, had passed away just a week earlier from a rare illness, H. virus-induced pulmonary syndrome, a disease transmitted by rodents. When authorities entered their home, they uncovered chilling details. Hackman's body was discovered in a small entryway near the kitchen, while his wife lay in the bathroom, a bottle of pills spilled on the floor beside her. Their loyal dog, Xena, one of their 3 pets, was found dead in the closet, though the other 2 animals had survived. Hackman's death was not only the loss of a Hollywood legend, but also sparked a wave of unanswered questions. How did he spend his final days? Did he know that his wife had passed before him? The world speculated, but Robert Duvall didn't ask. Instead, he reflected on the past, on the era that Hackman had come to symbolize. Robert Duvall finally broke his silence in an exclusive interview following Hackman's passing. He spoke about the man he had kept quiet about for so long. His voice remained steady, devoid of sentimentality or dramatic emotion. He didn't cry or show pain, but each word he uttered held an undeniable weight. "He was the toughest man I've ever known, not just on screen but in real life," Duvall said. Hackman wasn't just tough on screen, he was a hard man. He was almost a mistake, a former Marine, and military discipline followed him his entire life. But that toughness made him lonelier. Some people crave being liked, but Gene didn't care. He never sought admiration, never needed recognition. He skipped award shows, turned down interviews, and lived life his own way. Maybe that's why he and I never became close. We were too much alike. Gene Hackman left behind an extraordinary legacy in film, with iconic roles in classics like Popeye Doyle in The French Connection and Little Bill Daggett in Unforgiven. He never shied away from portraying ruthless, cruel, or morally complex characters. But Robert Duvall wasn't focused on listing Hackman's greatest films. What mattered most was that Hackman brought a spirit to Hollywood that's no longer there. Today's actors don't have what he had. He wasn't just an actor, he embodied the character. Hollywood today is filled with attractive faces, polished performances, and technically skilled actors. But few possess the raw, undeniable authenticity that Hackman brought. That's why his departure wasn't just the loss of a man, it was the end of an era. After Robert Duvall's interview was published, there was little reaction from Hollywood's veterans. Clint Eastwood, still making films into the 90s, stayed silent. Dustin Hoffman, Warren Beatty, Jack Nicholson, none of them spoke up. Perhaps they understood there was nothing left to say. A legend had passed, a generation was fading, and no tribute, obituary, or reminiscing could change that. Robert Duvall gazed up at the New Mexico sky, the very sky Hackman had lived under in his final years. Maybe he was reflecting on the old days, a time when men like Hackman stood strong, unshaken, no regrets, but as Hackman once said, "Nothing lasts forever." Gene Hackman, one of Hollywood's greatest actors, abruptly stepped away from the spotlight, choosing a life of seclusion in Santa Fe, New Mexico. His decision not only shocked fans, but also sparked curiosity about the real reasons behind his departure from the film industry. Over a career that spanned more than 4 decades, Hackman left an indelible mark with unforgettable performances in films like The French Connection, Unforgiven, and The Royal Tenenbaums. With 2 Oscars under his belt, he was hailed as one of the most talented actors of his generation. In 2004, Hackman made an unexpected announcement. He was retiring after starring in Welcome to Mooseport. During an interview with Larry King, he revealed that he had no upcoming film projects and felt his acting career had reached its conclusion. After leaving Hollywood, Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where they sought a quieter life away from the limelight. They embraced a peaceful life, far from the noise of the entertainment industry. Hackman dedicated his time to writing and painting, publishing several novels and engaging in local art activities. Although he stepped away from the screen, he maintained contact with a few old colleagues but rarely appeared at public events. Hackman's exit from the spotlight wasn't just retirement, it was a total disappearance. He didn't attend any events, turned down interviews, and never bid a formal farewell to his fans. This silence has sparked much speculation about the true reason behind Gene Hackman's departure from Hollywood. Some believe he simply sought a peaceful life after dedicating so many years to his craft, while others suspect personal issues or health concerns might have played a role. Robert Duvall and Hackman were once close friends, sharing a small apartment in New York with Dustin Hoffman during their early, ambitious days as actors. Their bond was built on mutual respect and a shared love for the arts. However, as time passed, their paths diverged, and they gradually drifted apart. Despite their growing distance, Duvall always held a deep respect for Hackman, and that sentiment was mutual. When Hackman decided to step away from Hollywood and embrace solitude, Robert Duvall kept quiet about his friend's decision. He never spoke publicly about Hackman's departure or his life afterward. This silence fueled speculation in the media and among fans. Some believe Duvall knew the real reason behind Hackman's disappearance, but chose to honor his friend's privacy. Others wondered if there had been a falling out that caused the rift between them. Many theories have surfaced about why Gene Hackman chose to leave Hollywood and retreat into seclusion. One of the most widely believed is that he sought to escape the noise and pressure of the entertainment industry, choosing a peaceful life with his wife and beloved dogs. Some reports also suggest Hackman struggled with health issues, including heart problems and late-stage Alzheimer's disease, which may have influenced his decision. However, due to Hackman's private nature, these claims have never been officially confirmed. In Santa Fe, Hackman lived with his wife, Betsy Arakawa, and their 3 dogs. They embraced a simple life, keeping to themselves and staying out of the public eye. Their neighbors rarely saw them, and they avoided local social events. The dogs in their home were a testament to Hackman's love for animals and his desire for a peaceful, uncomplicated existence. A maintenance worker arrived at Gene Hackman's home in Santa Fe but received no response at the door. Concern grew, as Hackman was known for his reclusive nature and strict routine. He never deviated from his daily schedule. When the neighborhood security team was alerted, they discovered a chilling scene: 2 lifeless figures inside. More than 2 decades after Gene Hackman left Hollywood, without a word of farewell and never returned, the question still lingers in the hearts of his fans. Why settle for the simple explanation that he just wanted peace away from the spotlight? Many believed Hackman had reached his peak and simply didn't want to continue, but after his passing, a deeper truth began to surface, one that only those closest to him knew. If you find the story behind the spotlight and the mysteries of Gene Hackman's life intriguing, leave a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a comment with the number 0. Now let's continue the story. Then, Robert Duvall broke his silence in a rare interview after Hackman's death, saying something that took everyone by surprise. Gene didn't leave because he wanted to. He was forced to. A simple statement, but it immediately sent shockwaves through the industry. It uncovered a chilling truth. Hackman didn't just step away from the spotlight on his own terms. He was pushed out of Hollywood. Why would an actor with 2 Oscars, someone who commanded every scene with a mere glance, be forced to leave? Who made that decision, and what was the real reason behind it? When asked for more details, Duvall paused for a long moment, as if wrestling with his own thoughts, before offering a faint smile and saying, "Hollywood is a business, and when you don't play by its rules, you know how it goes." His answer was vague, yet loaded with meaning. Those who followed Gene Hackman closely knew that he was never easy to manage. Hackman was a masterful actor, But he wasn't one to easily bend to Hollywood's rules. He turned down countless scripts, even with high pay on the table, simply because he didn't connect with the content or the character. He despised the pretense of Hollywood, the lies, the glossy interviews, and the endless flattery. He wasn't afraid to clash with directors or even the most powerful producers. Once, Hackman bluntly told a famous producer, "I don't care how much you pay me, I won't do your movie if it's trash." This statement laid bare his uncompromising nature. And therein lay the problem. Hollywood doesn't favor people like Hackman. They prefer obedient actors who play the political game, who know how to show up at glamorous parties and say all the right things to the media. Hackman didn't do any of that. Throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Hollywood had to tolerate Hackman because his talent was undeniable. But by the 2000s, as new generations of actors emerged and studios shifted their focus, they no longer had a need for Hackman. The Hollywood machine, once reliant on him, began to turn its back on the very actor who had once been its star. This didn't happen overnight. Hackman's removal was slow and subtle, just as Hollywood operates. Quality scripts began to dry up, and offers became fewer and farther between. The roles he was offered lost their appeal, and major projects started to overlook him. Directors he had once worked with, from Francis Ford Coppola to Clint Eastwood, as well as newer directors, gradually stopped seeking him out. Hackman was forgotten by the media, with no more articles celebrating his work, no exclusive interviews, and no accolades that other legends continued to receive. Then came the climax. Hackman completely vanished. No one knew where he was or what he was doing. There was no farewell to Hollywood, no official event marking his departure. He simply disappeared. If anyone knew the truth, it was Robert Duvall. The two had been roommates, weathered the toughest years together, and understood each other more deeply than anyone else. While they may not have been close in the best friend sense, they always knew what the other was up to, where they were. So when Hackman disappeared, Duvall surely knew the real reason, but for years he chose silence. "Some things are better left unsaid," Duvall remarked, adding yet another layer of mystery. The final question remains. Did Hackman truly choose to leave Hollywood, or was he pushed out by a system he constantly challenged with his tough, uncompromising nature? Hackman may have seen it coming. He might have known that once he was no longer at the top, Hollywood would never let him survive. Instead of becoming a faded star, he chose to disappear, leaving before they could push him out in disgrace. But regardless of the truth, one thing is certain. Hollywood no longer has anyone like Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman was not a perfect legend. He wasn't the type of actor everyone adored or the kind of star everyone wanted to work with. What set him apart from his peers was his brutal honesty, often to the point of harshness. Hollywood may celebrate talent, but it has little tolerance for those who are difficult to work with, and Hackman was probably one of those people. While those who worked with him recognized his genius on screen, behind the scenes, he could be a nightmare. One of the most infamous stories about Hackman revolves around his incident with director Wes Anderson during the making of the Royal Tenenbaums in 2001. Anderson, known for his meticulous, soft-spoken, and eccentric style, was the complete opposite of Hackman's blunt, intense demeanor and impatience with anything he considered frivolous on set. Hackman didn't hesitate to criticize Anderson, even berating him in front of the entire cast and crew. According to several sources, he called Wes Anderson an idiot and told him to pull up his pants and act like a man. This remark quickly became one of Hollywood's most infamous moments. Bill Murray, a longtime friend and collaborator of Anderson, had to step in to defend the young director. While the specifics of what Murray said to Hackman remain unclear, witnesses recall that the atmosphere on set became extremely tense whenever Hackman was around, and Anderson did everything he could to avoid him. To this day, Wes Anderson has never publicly spoken about his experience working with Hackman, but one can look at his frequent collaborators like Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, and Willem Dafoe to see the pattern. Hackman never returned to any of Anderson's projects again. Hackman's intensity wasn't limited to young directors. Even the toughest veterans of Hollywood acknowledged that he wasn't easy to work with. Clint Eastwood, who worked with Hackman on Unforgiven in 1992, had a relationship with him that was both respectful and distant. While Eastwood never openly criticized Hackman, he subtly referenced the actor's challenging nature. Once, when asked about Hackman in an interview, Eastwood simply smiled and offered a cryptic response. "Gene is intense. Don't mess with him." For someone like Clint Eastwood, who had faced Hollywood's toughest challenges and worked with some of its most difficult actors, that remark spoke volumes. Hackman never had much interest in nostalgia. He didn't attend cast reunions, rarely discussed his past films, and never tried to craft a lovable public image. But in a rare interview in 2004, he admitted, "Sometimes I've been tough on people, maybe too tough." Even then, he didn't apologize, offer excuses, or justify his behavior. He simply accepted that this was who he was. That was his character. The reason he was pushed aside is now becoming clearer. Hollywood didn't just push Hackman out because he refused to play by the rules. They pushed him out because he wasn't the type of person people wanted to work with in an industry where networking and diplomacy are key for longevity. Hackman defied it all. He despised flattery, had no interest in making industry connections, and didn't care about pleasing anyone. When Hollywood found enough reasons to push him aside, they didn't hesitate. But one thing they could never deny is that Gene Hackman remains one of the greatest actors in history. No matter how difficult he may have been, his performances will forever be legendary. Hollywood is a harsh world. It can elevate someone to legendary status and just as easily push them into oblivion, and Gene Hackman is just one of the victims of this cruel reality. Robert Duvall didn't just mention Hackman as an exception. He saw it as a warning, something that could happen to anyone. Duvall once said, "Hollywood will pat you on the back when you're on top, then the moment you start to falter, they'll turn their back on you without hesitation." Gene Hackman was once one of the greatest actors in the world. He had it all: a brilliant career, prestigious awards, and the respect of his peers. But then, as if a silent signal had been given, Hollywood decided his time had passed. Hackman likely understood that as well. He didn't cling to fame, didn't seek a final role to reconcile with the public. He simply vanished. But the question remains, why? Did Hollywood push him out because he was too old, because he no longer fit with the new trends, or were there past conflicts that made the industry decide it no longer wanted him? No one knows for sure, but one thing is certain. Hackman was not the only one in this situation. He's just one name on a long list of legends abandoned by Hollywood. Jack Nicholson, once a symbol of madness and wild energy on screen, almost vanished after The Bucket List in 2007. Some say he could no longer remember his lines, others claim he simply lost interest in acting. But whatever the reason, Hollywood didn't keep him. Robert Redford, a legend of the 70s and 80s, also quietly retired after The Old Man and the Gun in 2018. He called it a beautiful ending, But did he truly want it that way, or had Hollywood run out of space for him? Dustin Hoffman, another of the greatest actors of all time, faced a scandal in 2017 regarding inappropriate behavior. Since then, he has completely disappeared from major projects. There's a common thread here. Hollywood never lets anyone stay too long. Perhaps one day the big names of today, like Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Tom Cruise, will also be left behind, just like Hackman, Nicholson, and countless other legends. When asked about Hackman, Duvall simply said, "Gene understood the truth, but perhaps it was too late." Maybe Hackman doesn't regret leaving Hollywood, but perhaps he regrets not realizing sooner that Hollywood was never truly his home. No matter how talented he was, no matter how much he contributed, at some point, Hollywood will turn its back. When that happens, there are only two choices: fight or disappear. Hackman chose to disappear, and maybe that was the best choice he ever made. Gene Hackman was more than just an actor. He was an icon, a symbol of a generation of strong, fearless, uncompromising men, unafraid to speak their minds. But then, he left without a word of farewell, without any official announcement. He simply disappeared, as if he had never existed. And when Hackman left, a true era came to an end. Gene Hackman belonged to a different generation, one where men didn't feel the need to explain themselves. They weren't the type to sit in front of a camera, crafting a perfect public image. They didn't care about Twitter posts, social media, or self-promotion. Their principle was simple: let their work speak for itself. Clint Eastwood, with his cold, silent gaze yet undeniable strength. Robert Duvall, who could turn any character into a symbol of power. Paul Newman, who exuded an unmistakable elegance and charm. And Gene Hackman, an old lion always ready to roar, even when the world turned its back. They didn't need to act when they stepped off the set. They lived true to themselves, never pretending to be friendly or trying to please anyone. But that era has ended. If you look at Hollywood today, one thing is clear. It is no longer a place for people like Hackman. Hollywood has become a world of meticulously crafted images, carefully worded speeches, and strategically planned personal promotional campaigns. It's a place where actors must transform into public figures, always mindful of every word, every gesture, every moment captured on camera. Gene Hackman couldn't live in that world. He was the type of person who didn't need to befriend anyone just to secure his place. If he didn't like someone, he said it plainly. If he thought a director was doing poorly, he didn't hesitate to criticize them to their face. And that's why Hollywood pushed him to the sidelines. Duvall once admitted, Hollywood is no longer what it used to be. It's no longer a place for the stubborn, the unyielding. We used to have a Hollywood where legends like Hackman, Eastwood, Newman, and Duvall could dominate the screen without worrying about the industry's political games. But today, that is no longer true. Gene Hackman is not the only one to disappear in this way, but what makes him unique is that he never tried to make a comeback. Jack Nicholson still occasionally appears at basketball games. Robert Redford, though retired, still works as a producer. And Dustin Hoffman may no longer land leading roles, but he still makes appearances at certain events. But Hackman, he vanished completely. There was no grand comeback, no final film to say goodbye to the audience, no memoir recounting the glory days. He simply slipped away quietly. Yet, even though he chose to disappear, what he left behind are films like The French Connection, Unforgiven, and Mississippi Burning, Works that still stand as a reminder that there once was a Gene Hackman, one who was truly irreplaceable. When Hackman left, he didn't just leave Hollywood, he closed the door on an entire era. Today, we still have great actors, but we no longer have people like Hackman. They don't make a Gene Hackman anymore. There may be more talented actors, or those who excel in adapting to the new era, but a man who is straightforward, humble, and uncompromising like Hackman is something Hollywood has lost forever. And perhaps Hackman understood that. Maybe that's why he left. Not because he no longer loved cinema, not because he lacked the ability to act, but because Hollywood was no longer a place for him. When Robert Duvall remarked that Hollywood isn't what it used to be, he wasn't just referring to Hackman, he was reflecting on an entire era, a time of tough, fearless men who lived authentically. Gene Hackman was one of the final icons of that generation, and his departure marked the end of a true era. Gene Hackman never staged an official farewell to Hollywood, and perhaps that was his way. Never one for boasting, needing no grand send-off, or relying on a final film to cement his legacy. He simply vanished, and that departure made his absence all the more unforgettable. While Hollywood may have turned away from Hackman, his films endure. His performances remain sharp, intense, a lasting testament to a man who never yielded to anyone, both in front of and behind the camera. If the mysterious story of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman's life caught you off guard, make sure to like, share, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on thrilling content. See you in the next one.